Hey guys, just here on a live stream. I just wanted to, watch the open of the DAX. We're at super high levels, so almost at all-time highs. I really think that if we sort of hit the 23500 level, we should see some serious downward movement. We're already heading south. We've got the close gap right here as we speak, and we can see on the Trade of 8 data. Just going to jump right in and have a look at these contracts. We've got 10 contracts. That to me looks like a limit order. Got some heavy buying up here. This is all sort of like limity order looking stuff. We should start to see some red come in if it is a bullish turnaround point on this close gap. So we've got a few contracts here, but not really enough turnaround point on this close gap. So we've got a few contracts here, but not really enough to turn us back around. So you can see the market's falling. The next point could be this pivot here. So what we've got to do is watch these contracts and just see if they kind of turn around and start to get a lot of red. We might see, say, for example, a really big contract like this. We're seeing some buying coming in here. And I just want to show you, what we're looking for when it comes to looking at the levels. So I'm going to move this in a moment and not bring it back up again. But we can see here, these are today's levels. You can get these from my MT5 suite. And you basically just drag and drop the levels on each day, and it plots the levels that we're looking for to help guide our decisions. And that's when I go over to this order flow and check out what's actually going on. So we can see here down a bit further as the pivot. Got a lot of activity going on. There's some, looks like buying, but it's not enough to turn the market around. Here it perhaps comes in. It may not be sustained though, because we're kind of in the middle of no man's land here when it comes to the pricing. So I guess there's a bit of volume at this point. See, the volume kind of pushes out. So these price levels here do have a bit of activity in them throughout the day. But in terms of the pivots and things, it doesn't really look to be something that is a real key point. But from here, if it does turn around, I'd expect it to at least go back up to this 23500 sort of area where all this volume is. The alternative, of course, is that the market may just continue falling and ignore this sort of rebound area. And we can tell it's sort of rebounding because we got a big sort of a limit order here, and then we started to see the red side come in, or the ask side, so people hitting that purchase, aggressive buying. And we're starting to perhaps see a bit of the green come in, so selling, the bid side getting tapped. With a big order here, so we've got 6 and then 6, it may be that we're going to continue up, but I'm not sure yet. If we see a lot more green come in as we fall down, and it's really strong, that could indicate selling. But as we see the red come in and build on this side, it leads me to think that we're going to go up. So there's a lot of volume coming in around these levels, and the market seems somewhat undecided as to which direction it's going to go. So what I'm doing with this order flow is basically identifying points that there's a lot of activity in the market at a certain price that could indicate some serious buying. Now, there's a lot of contracts coming in here on the buy side. 36. That tells me that there's a lot of buyers at this level. It's unlikely to be a sell limit at this level. However, I could be wrong, and I have been before. So this to me looks like there could be a reason to go long. again, the market may be heading down towards that pivot level at the same time. So while I'm not 100% convinced, I'm trying to build a picture of what I expect the market to do. I'm going to just quickly go back. This looks somewhat weak, so the market may push up from here, which it is now. I'm going to go back to the opening candle just to see what actually happened there in terms of the volume. So this is the opening candle here. So that's the previous candle. This kind of looks like we're going to get some selling because we've hit some ask side orders, and then it might have sort of sold off a little bit, but that's not really the case because we've gone into the open. Thin volume here. It's really pushed up. This could have been a limit. So sellers with limit orders saying, yes, I want to sell at this price. And then up here, we've got potentially very aggressive selling. So we've got 29 contracts and another 27 contracts. And the market obviously declined from that point. So because we've got a lot of bids, this was probably a limit order or a few limit orders and perhaps some aggressive selling incorrectly or for a small position. And then we can see here the picture continues to build as we see the 29 and the 27 on the bid side, indicating that we're likely to probably drop from these levels. I'm surprised there wasn't more of a wick up further with some thin market data up here, but it's fairly solid. So we've got two contracts there. Basically the market just fell from that point on. On the next candle, so the next 1 minute over, we had quite a bit of orders around the 508 and 507 point. It didn't really seem to hold. There was a bit of a rejection, but not really. And the market sort of continued to fade. So we can see here the green took over. It wasn't overly strong, but it is definitely a little bit stronger down the bottom here, which could have been mistaken for limit orders on the buy side. So buyers putting limit orders in to get long. Potentially some stops have been taken out and then some aggressive selling, but that didn't quite pan out. And the market continued to fall. So we're back over at the current market pricing just to see if the market will hold. So this to me looks like we're finding a bit of a floor. So we've got 40 contracts. We've got 14 over here for the sell side. It could be a limit, who knows. However, we go on then to the big 21 contracts here and then another 9. So there's a bit more ask activity going on. And the market's held flat for a few minutes. So the market's kind of deciding what to do. And as we can see, it's starting to sort of turn around here, but looks like it may come back down. No, there's the strength. Now, I've got this chart down here, which is also another version of order flow, but it's 15 minutes and it's delta. So it tells me what direction the total market has fallen. So for example, on this side, we're net 27 on the ask side, so that's buying. Excuse me. Up here we can see net selling, probably. So 25 contracts more than on the bid compared with the ask. So this is the delta chart showing me the net position of the market in terms of buying and selling, or bid and ask, I should say. And this also helps to build a picture. So you can see here, there's a big sell order potentially. It came right down. There's a big order here. The market's sort of gone up and down, and we can see these candles, these little green sections here, were probably sellers, aggressive sellers, moving into the market, pushing it right down, and then we've got this red, I guess, red order flow section here at this price, and we can see the market is starting to push up. Now there's quite a bit of green up here, or the bid side, indicating that perhaps it's not as strong of a bullish move as we're expecting. It's about even, so we can see the net movement on this bottom chart. We can see the actual current orders, and that's a big 21 there. We can see the market starting to push down off that. But is that going to be enough to hold it down? So the DAX is notoriously bullish. So we'll see if we do have that correction. We are at sort of all-time highs, kind of a triple top. If you look at a weekly chart on a CFD broker, you can kind of see that there's a lot of room for the downside. And we're basically at all-time highs, maybe a couple of 100 points off. So I'm really expecting that at some point in the near future, something's going to happen to pull this market back, or alternatively, we're just going to keep going long. So just got to watch, build a picture, and when it's undeniably in our favor, or in the favor of the market direction, a particular market direction, it doesn't have to be long or short, but you want to build a decision and a bias around what you expect the market to do, and then use big contract orders like this 40, like this 21, and then finally the 9, to build a picture. It's sort of slowing, we're getting a lot of buy contracts coming in, and the market's pushed up. Not the greatest move as yet, and we can see here that potentially it was time to get out when all of these contracts started to get in. And you're really just building a picture as best you can to decide what to do. And back here even, you can see there's a lot of green here, and then we've got this big red wick, and then the move continued up into the open. So you've got green on one side at the bottom, so if it's lower, you've got green build up, and then followed by the red above it. Kind of shows me that the market's looking to move long, whereas there's not a great example on this chart, but for example, if there was a big red volume section here on this side, followed by this green to push it down, that would be quite a strong indication that we're going short. But perhaps that didn't happen because we had the open on this candle here, so I was waiting for the open before it actually started to go short. There's a lot of potential, I would say that's probably buying there, but we didn't see that limit order on the ask side to take us short. So quite interesting, and we're back down to, I guess, break even from this big order here. The market's still figuring out what direction it wants to go, but could have been a really good move long from around here, say. You go from 23430 up to, say, 2350. Here we go. Bit of movement. It's trying to decipher what the picture is, so it's quite even. You know, nobody's really taking control as far as I can see. So it's just trying to figure out what direction it's going to go. And at the open, could have really potentially been a good sell had you have seen these two contracts, the net delta there looking quite good to then take you short if you were confident the market was going to go down. Now the last however long, it's been some time where the DAX just blindly goes up. So many traders would be thinking, you know, I'm not going to get in front of that rising star. So going short is potentially against a lot of people's trading plans, and they're only looking for longs. So this area back here where you've got these three orders, you've got a bit of potentially limit order here to then build that picture, the slowing momentum to the downside to then take us long for a few points. could have been a good option. But you've got to be quite patient. And as for the levels, they're not really showing up. We're not bouncing off. There we go. 31 contracts there. That could have been a blind buy, or perhaps some stops being taken out or something like that. I'm not too sure. But it really bounced the market back the other way. But we haven't reached the pivot. We touched the close gap, but didn't really see a full rejection off it. So that's the levels that I've got on my website, which you can drag and drop those levels each day to define and give you a bit of guidance as to where the market is likely to reject off, where it may find some strength and weakness off those Kemarola levels. But yeah, guys, I just wanted to jump on and give you a bit of insight as to what I'm looking at and the levels that I use and that kind of thing. So I hope you found it helpful. Perhaps I brought up some things that you haven't looked at in the past. I know that a lot of professional traders will use this order flow because it tells you in each candle there's so much information that you don't see on a regular CFD chart. So you can really see, this would just be a price. But you can see here that it's, there's 27 contracts going right into this level. And then you got 31 and then the 10. It's really strong ask side interaction. That could have been a limit order. So a buying limit for 27 contracts to then, as we see, the market is now going up. So we've got just aggressive buying potentially, or stops, and then it's come down a little further. Somebody's put a buy limit in for 27 odd contracts, or perhaps there's been many parties, and you can see the market has moved a fairly decent amount. Look, it's not my favorite trading day based on the data that I'm seeing. There's nothing that's super stand out, but there's definitely a few points that the order flow could have taken you in, as opposed to looking at purely the CFD charts and waiting for your levels to be hit. There's a bit more potential in looking at the order flow, for me anyway, compared to just looking at a candlestick and hoping prices are hit and met and not knowing exactly what these futures traders are thinking. So whether they're on the ask or the bid, how much, what price levels they're going in at, and obviously how many contracts is being traded at each price point. Now we can see here there's green and then red, red, red. That guides me into thinking that the market will go long, but I could be wrong. So we'll have to wait and see. As I also mentioned, though, we are at pretty much all-time highs, or very close to, within a couple of 100 points of all-time highs on the DAX. After that big rejection following the tariffs that were put out, we saw a massive move down and then a full retracement to where we are now. So the market itself hasn't really shifted too much compared to that big drop. So it's just interesting to see what the market is thinking and feeling, and when it comes to its order placement, and it looks somewhat bullish considering the price points that we're at and the economy and situation that is currently afoot. But one final tip is the market's always right. You need to fit in with the market in order to get it to work for you, and going against it basically means that you lose money. So try and understand what's going on and what's actually happening, regardless of the figures and the politicians and the economy. The market is the market, and it holds the end truth. So if the market goes up, it's going up. You can't just short because you think it's going to go short. Meanwhile, the market continues going higher and higher. Anyway, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this session, and I hope you took something away from it. We'll do these from time to time in the future again, as I used to. And any questions, feel free to